Hey, this is RK9 here at Anime Getaway with Alexa Hart, one of the cosplay guests here at the convention. Hi, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Thanks for talking to me.
Okay, first things first, obviously, what made you want to get into cosplaying? Like, what was the first thing that you saw that you made me be like, I have to dress up as this character?
You know, it's funny because when I was a kid, I loved just being a different character. But really the first thing that I saw that I had to was Josie from Josie and the Pussycats, the movie.
Okay, I can respect that. So going from Josie, can you tell, like, what made you, like, process that? What did you, like, go and find something and then alter it? Or did you be like, hey, mom or dad, help me?
I knew nothing about making costumes, so I literally went down to one of the vintage stores and found all of the stuff that I needed to make the costume.
That's nice. That's a really good way to do cosplays, though, isn't it? Isn't that? I remember going to your panel, you said go, shop, 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 right?
Yeah, doing vintage stuff, depending on what you're doing, is one of the best ways to at least start, because you can also figure out how things are put together by looking at those garments.
Can you give any advice to aspiring cosplayers who just want to do basic stuff before getting into the detailed stuff?
Start small. Don't get discouraged, because nobody knows everything, and nobody's going to build award-winning cosplays from day one. So just start small.
Can you go over a couple of things that a cosplayer might need to know before they begin?
Have an understanding of what your budget is. That sounds silly, but a lot of people, they look at a costume and they're like, oh, I want to make that. And they don't realize that once they get into everything, it's going to cost them a few $100s. They think, oh, I can make that for $40. Know your budget and know when to pull away. If it's going to be too much, or if you're going to spend too much this week on it, pull away from it for a minute. You know, save your money, do your thing, because you've got to have a life too.
So would you say that going vintage shopping is easier than starting from scratch and making your own costume?
Depends on what you're going for. If you're going for something that's going to be a vintage style, then yes, it's so much easier. But if you're going for something that is like a modified version of something else, the costume I have on today is a perfect example. I couldn't have done something with a cape. Like I couldn't have taken a coat that had a cape. I needed to modify something that was already existing, like in a pattern.
Okay, can you tell me, like, what fabrics or materials do you use the most? What do you think is most easiest to work with?
So it's not one and the same. I feel like just a plain cotton is probably the easiest to work with because it doesn't stretch, it doesn't slip, it doesn't slide. But spandex is probably what I use the most. But it slips and it slides and it does all these weird things. And sometimes, you know, if you don't stitch it right, it's one of those things. It's just a pain in the butt.
Do you have any tips for making armor or props or anything?
Watch tutorials, buy some cheap foam from Harbor Freight or from Hobby Lobby or wherever you go, and practice, and don't get discouraged.
Any other tips or tricks you can possibly add?
You know, look at how things are shaped. Get an understanding of how things are supposed to lay on the body. Whenever you're trying to build an armor piece, you're going to look at it and you're going to have to figure out how it will mold to your body. I used to get frustrated because I didn't quite understand it. I hadn't learned to think three-dimensionally when putting it on a two-dimensional piece of paper to draw out the pattern. Past that, just make sure that you're comfortable with the materials that you're using. Sometimes you might not be comfortable with the type of foam that you've used, or sometimes you might not be comfortable with the thermoplastic that you've used.
So can you maybe guesstimate like how long it would take to do like a difficult cosplay like an armor?
So I have a Supergirl that it was off of an artwork piece that was literally a pair of tights and a mesh top that I spray painted the S on. It was really, really crude. That took me about 15 hours. Just because of the spray painting and the taping and everything. That took a minute. But I have a set of armor, it's a Charizard armor, that took a couple 100 hours. All the scales were individually put on and pressed in, and yeah, it was a pain in the butt.
So cosplaying is not exactly for the faint of heart. If you really want to make your own, you got to actually put forth effort and set forth time and all of that. How do you do time management?
Luckily, I own my own business, so I'm able to dedicate a certain number of hours every week to doing the costuming side of it, because that is part of the business.
That is awesome. Do you have any cosplays that are currently in the works?
I've got a ton. There's a gorgeous Ariel wedding dress statue where she's basically in a white fish scale gown that I actually have the material. I've just cut it out. That one should be done soon. Sith Ariel, I like the Little Mermaid a lot. There's a Mega Man costume that I'm working on. And then I'm working on another diva from Overwatch. I'm working on the costume for that as well.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot on your plate. So thank you so much for taking the time and talking with me.
Thank you for talking to me.
Yeah, you're awesome. I enjoyed your panels earlier. I learned a lot. So as I said, this is RK9 here at Anime Getaway with Alexa Hart.